Hi, everyone, and thanks for coming back to join me for another album review. Today, we are going to be talking supergroup. And I mean supergroup by the way of the band Crowne. That's Crowne. They are a supergroup that was founded by the president of Frontiers Music's label, Serafino Perugino. He had his hands all involved in this project. So he pulled in some key players. I'm not a fan of supergroups. Let me make that my first disclaimer that the supergroup thing has been a flood since last year. 2020 brought out all of the over live streaming, over super grouping, too much barrage of everything because we've all been hyper focused. A lot of us have been at home. That's kind of my disclaimer to this. I'm not a super fan of supergroups because a lot of what I've heard come so far has been a super bomb. And I mean bomb, not in a good way at all. Not like, hey, you're the bomb. I mean, like, as in, I don't want to play it again. Please make it stop. It's painful. Painful. So with that said, this group caught my attention because of all the key players involved. They are a lot of Swedish artists that I'm very familiar with. So I'm familiar with their bands, the work that they do, other projects they've been involved with. When I heard that John Levin, the bass player from Europe, was involved with this, I thought, okay, this is something I'm definitely going to take a chance on because I followed his work for years and his style of playing is something that I've always been interested in. And okay, I'm going to at least check out a first few singles, right? Then I heard the rest of the lineup. Alexander Strandell from Art Nation. I like those guys a lot. I've seen them live. They do a good show. They do good writing. And Alexander is also, a great vocalist. There's Jonah T from the band Heat, and they're upcoming fun band that, a lot of people are familiar with. If you're not because you're in the States, it's just because they haven't really come here. They've been out here, a few of the guys have been out doing other things like Rock and Skull a few years back. A few of the guys came to play with Martina Edoff. So I'm familiar with these guys, with their music. I like what they're doing. And if you don't know Heat, you got to check them out. And for like drummer wise, Crash is like one of the funniest, coolest dudes in the world. And he has the great hair flips. I can't do the hair flip here, but he does these great, like massive hair flips while drumming. A pretty cool dude. Right. So anyways, I digress. Let's move on down. So the drummer on this project is not Crash, but hey, you know what? There's no loss there because it is Christian Kicken Lundqvist from the Poodles. If you're not familiar with the Poodles, they are a great, like, legendary band within Sweden. They are no longer together, though, sad to say. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, they, called it quits. Will there be new music ever down the road? Who knows? People go on hiatus and come back 3 decades later. Who knows? I don't know that the Poodles have 3 decades. Really, they could do that, but you know what I mean. So the last player in this one, Love Magnusson from the band Dynasty. And, I think anybody who follows the melodic rock scene, follows the Swedish scene, these names, some of these players. You may not know them all, but you may be familiar with 1 or 2 or 3 of them. So just the lineup itself to me was like, okay, this is definitely something I'm going to have to check out. First few singles came out. One of them was like, I'm not really sure that I get it. But then Sharoline came out and I was like, okay, now wait, whoa, that's a really good song. It's catchy. It's melodic. It's got good harmonies and the hook's going to get you. And it also comes with that thing that they call the earworm where it just kind of gets stuck in it. It just keeps spinning around in your head and you can't get it to stop even if you want it to. It's just stuck there. So that to me was like a telltale that this is definitely an album that is worth checking out and giving my time. It's out this Friday, June 18th, and I hadn't seen the promo, and I'm like kind of frantically, did I miss this promo? What's going on here? But no, it shows up in my inbox this morning as it just came out for us to check out here, at least in the USA. We just got it this morning. So I went and pushed play. I'm going to give full playthrough, and I have to say, the very first track, Kings in the North, perfect opening track for an album, especially for a new group that people, it's not a new not new musicians, not new musicians, but just this new formed group working together. Man, what a way to start it off. It's fierce, it's hard, it's melodic, it sounds good. It just straight into just a great heavy tune. And it's probably one of the heavier tunes on the album. So then I kind of had an issue as I rolled into the second track and then a few of the other tracks throughout the album that really threw me, because when the press release came with the promo, it didn't say anything about who was involved in the writing. And I like to kind of know those things so that you can kind of reference what you're hearing. And for me, like, first of all, I was like, okay, this has definitely got to be Eric Mortensen from Eclipse writing this music, because Percival literally sounds like the mix of, if you're familiar with the band Eclipse, if not, I'm gonna walk you through this, the early stuff. So like Bleed and Scream and Armageddon Eyes, if you're talking like Ain't Dead Yet and Wide Open, it sounded just like, I'm like, you could have just like interchanged these two tracks. It was just, to me, it was like, what? Wait, what? And I was like, okay, I didn't see any mention of Eric Mortensen working on this album. So what is going on here? Me, of course, definitely emailing the PR rep going, hey, dude, what's up? Like, is Eric Mortensen writing on this album? Like, seriously, I hear that through this whole album. Like, I hear his influence. Is he part of this album? Do you know? And he was like, oh no, I can tell you without a doubt, he's not involved on the album. He did, well, at least in the writing part of it. He's not writing on the album. I don't know. I didn't ask if Eric was involved in any other way with production. I don't know. So don't jump to that conclusion. But as far as the writing, yeah, most of the writing was done by Alexander Strandell, and it's just the way it falls sometimes. I don't think he ripped off Eclipse's work at all. I'm not saying that's not what I'm relating it to. It's just, it sounded so much like Eclipse. So for those of you who love Eclipse, you're going to love this album, is what I'm saying. Basically, yeah, you're going to love this album. But don't go in here and go, oh, they ripped Eclipse off, because they did not. Alexander is a great writer, and some of the other stuff in, Art Nation, you can hear some of those same kind of hear things here and there. But you know how it goes. There are only so many chords and progressions anybody can do. And I think at this point in music as a whole, it's almost everything's already been done at some point. So whether you know the bands or not, you might hear something and go, wait, what? That's a band I know. Or you may listen to it and you don't know these other bands and you're like, oh, I've never heard this kind of sound before. It's really cool. So I think that, the album does a really strong playthrough. But it really, I had a hard time kind of like the listening part, because I just kept going, God, it really sounds like Eclipse, but no, it's not Eclipse. So there's 11 tracks on this album. You go from like really hard melodic to a lot softer, more rhythmic, melodic harmonizing. There's a lot of really fun bass tracks in here that I'm sure John Levin had a great time with this album, but also where you get the really unexpected solos from Lova's style. I think that the writing really lended to it. There's some really fun elements that go through this entire album, whether you're getting it from the very beginning of a track, it's the progression into the track, whether it's the solos or just the whole overall feel. I couldn't be happier with a supergroup album because of me sitting here going, God, I'm really tired of these groups. No, this one is definitely, you want to add this one to your collection. I think it's well done. The writing is really well done. The production on it really, it came out sounding like you would hope when you hear there's going to be a supergroup album coming. You're going to hope that they bring the super everything. I think they brought the super everything on this album. I'm sure as musicians themselves, they probably go, oh, well, I hear this and I hear that I didn't like so much. And I hear this. I didn't write or record this album. I don't hear what the artists themselves hear with their own personal work. I think this is a fun album. And I think Frontiers did really well with this one. You guys can't go wrong with this one. I think that come Friday, this is going to be an album you really need to have, that you've got pre-saved onto your Spotify, or if you want to buy, you can buy it. They've got it in CD jewel case. You can get limited edition LPs that are like colored LPs. So if you want any of that, head over to the Frontiers label, check it out. Put your order in, because you know how it is with collectible stuff. You're not going to be able to get it later. So make sure to just go ahead and put that order in. It's a good album. I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to be sorry ordering this one. I wasn't sorry listening to it. So I say, thank you. My ears aren't going, no, stop, please put me out of my misery, because there have been those albums that I've just been like, please stop. This one I loved. I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with this one. This is definitely a win for melodic rock. It's definitely a win for all the Swedish musicians. You guys have that sound, that region. And if anybody out there is that super follower of the sound, you do know, like I do, that the sound of Sweden, and I say it all the time, it's just the Swedish sound. Depending on what type of music you are listening to, whether it's the death metal, whether it's the black metal, it's symphonic metal, whether it's rock and roll, hard rock, or you're listening to melodic rock, the Swedes have their own distinct style and sound. You're going to hear it whenever you hear something they put out. And for me, I just have that ear now, that if I hear something and I don't know anything about a band or project, I'm always usually going, that's definitely got to have some influence from something in Sweden, because that's just sounds like the Sweden scene. So with that said, you guys, this new album is called Kings in the North. It's out Friday through Frontiers Records. The band again is called Crowne, Crowne. And I would say, yes, crown as in being the metaphor of the kings, because it's not just kings in the North, it's the kings of the North, yeah. These guys did a really good album. It's really fun, definitely go check this one out. So we will see you next time on another album review. But until then, make sure you want to check this one out. Like, I'm serious. Like, I'm looking for, like, it's up here, it's up there, it's on one side or the other. The album is there. But also don't forget to subscribe to be able to get the next, notification of what we do next. We've got a lot of albums down the pipeline. We will see you next time.